just kind of wanted to start with, you mentioned, the roles, and in the intro, it talks about you avoiding tokenism in your roles. I know that one of your recent films that was released last year, and in one of the ones coming up, you play a trans character. Now, how do you feel that has come across? How do you think those characters did as far as avoiding that sort of trans tokenism?
Yeah, I mean it's such a nascent point for transmasculine representation still. There's very few opportunities for transmasculine representation. And I would say trans folks in general in Hollywood as it is shifting, the industry is shifting so much right now. The world is shifting, definitely Hollywood is being impacted. So with the few choices that are available for transmasculine people, a lot of them are written by cis folks, not all of them, but a lot of them are written by cis folks who maybe are well-meaning, I think most of the time, but where these characters are kind of two-dimensional and there's an idea about what this is, about what the existential experience is, that's not the experience. It's this like, you know, it's when any sort of observer talks about a minority group, right? There's always this disconnect because they're not living it. So when I first started, actually, I booked my first role in 2020, ironically, and we shot the film in January, February, picture wrapped, and then the pandemic happened. So it was a crazy whirlwind for me where I was like, Hollywood! And then it was like, you know? But that first role was written by a trans man, and I shot it in San Francisco with him. I booked my first audition. It was really wild, that set me up for a lot of rejection after that. And that was not a tokenized role because it was written by a trans man. So I was like, this is amazing. I just want to be on set playing these characters that are pretty dimensional. Then between 2022 and 2023, I was given a lot of auditions where it was trans masculine characters that were not me. Like I look like Jason Bateman. Like I've been on hormones since 2012. Like I just am not um I was not Hollywood's idea of what trans masculinity looked like. I think they had an idea around like people who are more androgynous looking, not so masculine looking, not so passing. There's nothing wrong with that representation, but it's not me. I can't play those roles. Unless I use drag, and I can play drag queen better than that. Anyway, so I didn't even really book those tokenizing roles where it was sort of like, here we're spoon feeding trans masculinity, an idea of what that is to you. I started to write my own stuff. I wrote Spookable, which premiered at Framingham last year, Framingham Film Festival, which is a T for T horror comedy with Alexandra Gray, who's an excellent trans actress. And I got to play myself, essentially. And then from doing that, from starting my own stuff, I had a reel, and people started to see that I was talented, and it was beyond my identity. The identity is interesting and important, but it wasn't the whole of me. And I got to start to audition for characters that were cis. I started gay male characters. Uh, House of Abraham is really interesting because I do play a trans character, but it's not about him transitioning at all. We're not feeding that. I've been medically transitioned for over a decade, so I'm I'm just not there, and that's okay for folks who are. But like, I want to play characters where it's not about teaching cis audiences the medicalization of it all, but it really like what is our experience? What are our vast experiences? And as an actor, you get to be a mirror and reflect all of those myriad experiences.
Yeah, and sort of get to that point of the fact that you're trans is something that doesn't cause any kind of reaction. It's absolutely inconsequential. It's just like, yeah, what is it that you do? What is it that you do that's interesting? And trans not being one of those. That's the goal. You have Spookable, which is a movie that you wrote and starred in that came out last year. And talk about that briefly, and then the two films that you have that are releasing, the one that just released and the one coming up.
Yeah. So Spookable is a short film that's a proof of concept for a TV series and a feature film. It's a T for T, so trans for trans woman, trans man love story that takes place in like a very weird monster creature of the week cinematic universe. That's very horror comedy. It's a little bit like Goosebumps with trans people. It's very fun. Um, we talk about trans identity through the lens of the queer gothic, so through vampires, through leprechauns, through werewolves. uh Really funny comedy, that at least I think so. I think it's funny, and that is not yet on a streaming platform. We are planning on getting it. Sometimes Hulu does short films. There's certain streamers that do. Even Netflix has short films, so we're still working on getting it to a streamer, but it's still going through the festival circuit right now. So it's playing in different film festivals across the country.
Awesome. And then the one that just released in April is Airplane 2025. And that one stars Tom Arnold. So how did that one go? And what's about that you want to promote here?
Airplane 2025. Yeah, you can watch it on Tubi and Amazon Prime. It does star Tom Arnold. Tom Arnold has yeah, he's a character. I don't know what to say about Tom. I didn't have any. I only had one scene with Tom. The cast is amazing. It is a spoof movie like Austin Powers. It's a spoof movie of Airplane, the original Airplane. Some people are like, this shouldn't have been remade, but I'm like, it's a spoof movie. It's not really a remake. I really love Airplane 2025 because I play a cis character. I play like a heartthrob tennis player stoner who like hits on every woman that walks on the screen. Very fun for a trans man to be cast in that role. Uh, so I love it. I mean, I had a lot of fun. Would I say it's like Oscar worthy? No, it's a spoof movie. Like it's very much for those people who are stoners, you're gonna love it. For people who are non-stoners, if you need like a light-hearted, fun watch, it's great. Um, so it's a very fun movie. I would say overall, I like raunchy comedies, so I got to really lean into my comedy chops for that.
Mm.
Yeah,
And you mentioned that you played a stoner character in that. What m- what more was there to the character? Was the character trans or cis?
cis guy, cis tennis player. Um, yeah, like no, kind of like Dennis Rodman, like very much has the like. I mean, he's a basketball player, but still has the like aura of like I'm an all important athlete. Like people are gonna love me. I'm very charismatic and confident because I'm this major star in athletics. So yeah, cis character. I booked him off of a tape. I actually sent in tapes for all of the male characters, and I booked the tennis player. And I would say that like I generally have strong sex appeal when I want to, so they just booked me off of that. Like they wanted somebody with a strong sex appeal, which I can certainly like play on screen and I'm very comfortable with. Partially because I come from this weird performance art background where like I just let my stuff hang out, like I just did whatever I wanted, so that translates to that in some ways. Um, yeah, I mean it's a spoof movie, so like there isn't like a depth and necessarily an arc to my character,
Mhm.
but that is different than like House of Abraham. Like House of Abraham is a very different movie, and there's definitely an arc to my character. This is more just like fun, playful comedy, which is also valid and very fun to play.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The follow-up question I have for this is where did the specific outfit for the red carpet come from? You, if I'm not mistaken, wore a cutoff shirt that said dildo on it.
Yes. Oh my God. I just like well again, like I always feel like my life is very magical and serendipitous. Like I was in my partner's one of her dear friends is Greek. And so he invited us to Greece and like we had a very local kind of affordable Greek vacation in 2023. And we were in like a remote island in Greece and we went to a grocery store and this girl was wearing this tank like jersey that said dildo on it. And this woman, like, and I was like, where did you get? I have my performance art practice has a lot to do with dildos, so that's just TLDR. We don't have time to explain that, but like, I had worked with a lot of like sex toys and appendages in my performance art practice, and I saw that, and then my partner was like, "Oh my God, Marvel dildo," and I was like, "Oh my God!" And so I went up to her, and she didn't speak like great English, but she was like, "There's a tattoo shop in Athens called Dildo Tattoo, and it's run by a bunch of like straight cis men." It's hilarious, but it's like very European. They don't think it's weird. They don't think it's like gay or just like yeah, like dildo tattoo. So you can go if you're in Athens. I have been, and I went to their store, and they thought I wanted to get a tattoo, and I was like, no, I want to buy all of your merch. So I came in, and we're like this weird American came in with his girlfriend and just bought like all the jerseys and like dildo socks. I mean, they just had everything that said dildo in it. It was amazing. It was like my dream store. And I have friends now who are like, oh, I'm in Athens. I went to the dildo tattoo shop and bought some stuff. So people know about it now.
The other great thing about your outfit for the red carpet was the subtle nod to the trans identity there with all pinks and blues. I loved it.
Yes, I love that jersey for that exact and the shorts. You're right. I'm in a trans flag, of course. Got to play a little bit. Yeah.
And then tell us a little bit about House of Abraham in your reel. There's a couple different clips in there, and after watching that and then the trailer, that is a very exciting looking movie. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that and what your role is there.
Yeah, very different than Airplane 2025. Airplane 2025 is more like soda or candy pop. Like it's very easy to digest. It's not a deep movie. House of Abraham is a psychological thriller. It's very high art. I'm so honored to have been in that and I played a trans character, so that was very deep for me. Um, there's another movie that I don't have a release date for called Unsavory Elements that's going to be coming out in 2026. That's also I get to have a very powerful arc, but as a cis man. So there's just an interesting evolution. But House of Abraham, I play a trans male diver, so he's a professional diver. So he dives like on an Olympic team. So passing trans man, but like the complicated nature of being. I think he was, yeah, my character was a professional diver as a girl, and then had to leave that because he transitioned. So there's a lot of grief there. Um, I can't give it too much about the movie away, but essentially it's a group of people that go to a house to unalive themselves. And the thing that is so immediately triggering for trans people when you hear this is they're like, oh my God, you did a movie about trans people and suicide. I'm like, no, it's not what you think it is. It's not. House of Abraham is not at all what anyone thinks it is, but on the surface, it could look very problematic. I've talked to like GLAAD about it. GLAAD is this like organization that looks at all the media, whether it's supporting trans people or not. And GLAAD was like, "Don't touch it," but I did because I read the script and I was like, "Oh, my character is amazing," and my character goes through this whole arc where he enters this space thinking that he's gonna maybe like end his life in a peaceful way because he's trans, but because he's lost everything. And including his like Olympic, like he's lost his ability to do the thing that he wants to do professionally. And he has to make a really pivotal choice in the film that changes sort of his whole trajectory. And I won't give away too much if you watch the movie. It'll be coming out in theaters and then on streaming. But I just read it and was like, wow, for trans folks who watch this film, especially those who like horror and thriller genre, you really get to see a trans person do something that I've never seen a trans person do on screen. Multiple things that I've never seen a trans person do on screen. You get to watch that character. You get to watch me sort of process the idea of wanting to leave and then making a different decision. And it's really powerful why I make that decision and what happens constantly. So my character is very pivotal. It's very interesting. I technically play a supporting lead character, so the lead is Natasha Henstridge. She's from the Species fame. She was the lead in Species. She's done a lot. She's a great Canadian actress, and yet my character is pivotal to the arc of the storyline. And my character does go through a major shift in his psyche throughout the process of the film.
That's amazing. That one comes out in a limited release in New York, coming up soon, right?
Yeah, so June 13th, 14th, 15th. I actually think it's going to play at the local Diane cinemas for a week or two, but the premiere is the 13th, 14th, 15th of June. Then there's actually a premiere in Los Angeles on June 20th, a week later, at the Laemmle Theaters. I think all the Laemmle Theaters in Los Angeles will be playing House of Abraham. And then, for those folks or what we're going to do a country tour, not every city, but we're going to go to some cities. I'm trying to get it in Salt Lake City, which is where I'm from. We're going to try to do like our house cinema releases for as many states as possible. And then definitely streaming is the next step, but that might not happen until the fall or winter of 2025.
Okay. Well, I know my fiance is extremely excited about that. She loves horror, and we really, like I said, we really loved the trailer. It definitely grabs you. It's definitely an interesting story. So, best of luck on the release of that. That should be great. One of the topics we haven't talked about yet is stand-up comedy. You did
Mm,
mention how you got into acting, sort of
yeah.
a little bit of a push there.
Mhm.
How did stand-up comedy come about?
Yeah, I have to give credit where credit's due to Joey Soloway. Joey Soloway is the showrunner and creator of Transparent, Amazon original series about a woman who transitions, played by Jeffrey Tambor. We know that story probably. So Joey and I are friends, and we basically consider ourselves family. And Joey and I were doing a show, a live show in LA. It was not allowed to be recorded. It was called Gnarly Hose. It was basically like Rachel Maddow on like an LSD ketamine cocktail interview show. It was just really wacky, wild performance art. It was performance art, which that's my origination. So, and Joey's too. Joey comes from like Chicago stand up, like weird Chicago improv. So we were doing that. Joey was like, "Oh, I'm doing stand up now." Like Joey had just started testosterone. And was like, "I'm doing stand up. You should do stand up." And I was like, "I don't know." But then every year I try to do something that scares me. So in 2022, Joey said that and was like, "Oh, I gotta do something that scares me, like or creatively." And I was like, "I haven't done stand up. I have to do that. That's terrifying. That's a terrifying idea." And so instead of being, I can't do anything small. Like my personality is like I cannot do anything small. So instead of just like going to a random open mic, I got this like $6,000 grant from the city of West Hollywood to do an art, like to curate an art program. And instead, I was like, "Hey guys, can I use that money to do a trans masculine comedy night called Big Dad Energy?" And pay a bunch of trans guys and like have a great venue. And they were like, at first, the city of West Hollywood was like, "What?" And I just was able, with my charm, I was like able to convince them because I could just be like exceedingly charming. And so I was like, "Let's do this." And then he finally got behind it. And I was able to pay the guy. It was great. It was great. And then 2 nights. We did 2 nights. We sold out both nights. This was January of 2023. And I did my first set at my own show. I had never done stand up before and just went on stage and talked for like 22 minutes, which is insane. But I'm definitely a loquacious person. And I just made comedy out of my own life. Like I have an impression for my mom. Like I just talked about what it's like to be me. And then there were other trans guys on the lineup. So we've been doing that for 2 years now. It's really fun.
And what have you found are some of the key differences and similarities between the comedic outlet and acting?
Yeah, I think yeah, totally. There's such a connection between stand-up comedy and acting, and I do think that you see it with a lot of Hollywood people. Like you can be both, and often they inform each other. I definitely see myself doing both for the rest of my life. Like I always want to go on stage and do stand-up because it's so unfiltered, it's so raw, and you really can mess up in this beautiful way. Like I kind of like bombing. It's very strange. I don't purposely try to bomb on stage. I don't try to like fail, but when it happens, it's so I just like I like the feeling of being so exposed and being like, oh, that wasn't funny or that didn't land with this audience. Like, okay, but it reveals something about myself. Um, I think that acting helps me stay more grounded on stage. Like just the process that, especially the training that I do. I have a specific coach that I talked about, and the training that I do as an actor really helps me maintain a level of presence on stage that is helpful for comedy. Because if you're present, you can kind of feel where the audience wants to go or what they need from you or like how to do crowd work. So that's very helpful. And then comedy inversely informs acting because and you'll see this in House of Abraham when you watch it. I end up often, even in a horror movie, both of the big horror films I've done, House of Abraham and Unsavory Elements, again coming out next year, I have the comic relief in the movie. And it often I'm cast as the comic relief, but also sometimes they really let me improv with Unsavory Illness, this film coming out next year, and I was just like cracking people up, even though it's a horror. It's like truly a horror film. I just kind of went off the cuff, and that's very much informative comedy practice.
I would also think, you talked a lot about how, acting taught you uh, to be authentic, sort of push you into being authentic, and you know, that's how you perform well in that craft. And I think that that's a very similar thing in stand-up comedy. You have to show up authentically to really resonate and to have everything land, right?
Yeah, people can tell on stage if you're trying to hide yourself or if you're guarded, and they'll feel uncomfortable. An audience will laugh. I think some of the most successful comedians, in my opinion, are very revealing and are just letting their messy crap hang out. There's like, yeah, that's crazy, And I often make fun of myself, not in a way that's self-deprecating necessarily, but I admit my messiness and I make it a joke and I allow people to laugh at it because often they relate to it. That's the beauty of comedy is people are like, oh yeah, I relate to that. Not in the same way, but I see where you're going.
And we have a super chat from Charlotte who asks a question. So this will be our last one of the night. What piece of literature would you love to put your stamp on, whether just to produce, star, or direct as a passion project?
Oh, I have the answer. Oh my god, I'm so glad you asked this. Ooh, there's a tie. Oh, god, that's so hard. So I'll just say the first one that came to my head, but that's really hard because I have two that are very, very near and dear to my heart. I would really like to make a biopic on Reed Erickson. Reed Erickson is a trans man who helped found the One Archives in Los Angeles, which is, I think, the biggest LGBTQ archive in the world. Reed Erickson is like a very unknown figure in history, but he comes from an aristocratic family. He's a trans man. He had a pet jaguar at one point. He had a compound in Mexico, I think, or South America, where he did a bunch of ketamine. Like, he is such an eccentric. But he was also a philanthropist and like a bad boy trans guy. And there is just, there's an incredibly untapped story there where you get to see a person. I mean, he was just so unique, and he had his diary, the Diary of Reed Erickson, where he was a player and like a playboy, had all these women, and like I don't even know if he was medically transitioned, but he just was this, to me, such an enigmatic character. Susan Frager put me on to Reed Erickson, and I just like fell in love with his story. And I don't think I can play Reed, although I would love to. I don't quite, he's blonde and blue-eyed and very Irish looking, and I am not Irish looking, but I would love to see his life come on the screen because I think that it would also, I think it would be really cool for people to see that like trans people have always been there. They've always been behind the scenes, making things happen. They've been preserving culture, preserving history. They've been in the upper echelons of society. They've always been there. So Reed's story is very interesting to me. And he's such a wild card. And I love it. He's like part of that weird beat generation, but of course nobody talked about him because he's trans.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe it's just because of how it resonates with you and how excited you are about it. But I am very disappointed to hear you say that you don't think you would play that role because it sounds like it'd be perfect. And forgive me for saying this. This might hit wrong, but it seems like it's got like a Tiger King sort of moment to it, like that level of
not as like Tiger King. Yeah, I guess the unhinged part is very Tiger King. What I got from Reed's diary is that he was like eccentric, but very sensitive. Whereas Tiger King, and I'm friends with John Cameron Mitchell, who played Tiger King in the show that just happened, the like biopic show. And like that was unhinged. I loved it, but very reactive and explosive. Tiger King's very explosive, whereas Reed, I think, was feminine and like very maternal in his own way, but it's just totally eccentric. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you saying I would love to play him. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, why not? Actors are actors. That's why you do it. Like you play roles that are outside of like what people would normally think of you as. You put it in some contacts, a little bit of hair bleach, and you're there.
Exactly. Blue. I wore blue contacts in the last film I just shot, so we can make eyes blue. It happens.
Marvel Rex, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with everybody. It was wonderful having you here.
Thank you for having me. I loved the conversation. I appreciate all your questions so much.